So this is it. This is the final review I'll be making as for regarding Shed 17. It been a long journey, and honestly, I didn't really expect it Shed 17 to just have another sequel. Like Paul just disappeared for nearly 3 years, and then he comes back with a Shed 17 sequel. I legit thought, oh, he given up on YouTube, and yet here he is. And now it's time to review Sodorland and see if it is good or bad. Let's go. So we begin in a railway museum where we meet this black engine and this mysterious old guy. What shall he be up to? What shall he be up to? He starts saying a lot of stuff to supposedly torment in the black engine. And well, it worked. After killing this guy, we get a flashback to Thomas must ripping Keith apart. We also learn that this mysterious guy is actually Keith Hadley's son. So we learn about the whereabouts of Thomas, how he was arrested and brought to the island of Sodor so he could be the president, pretty much. In a fit of rage, Major, the name of Keith's son, decided to burn all the troublesome trucks, who now has extra scary eyes. So because of his actions, he was put in a mental hospital as an embarrassment. While Thomas, well, as I said, he became the president of Sodor, making anyone who was biofused around the world to come to the island of Sodor. After the UK dismissed this, the Indians decided to try and force everyone out by writing stuff into themselves, destroying property, and even trying to demonetize anyone who makes a video on this. I'm not monetized myself. Then we get reintroduced to Doc, the guy who has beaten some people in fights. He's now kind of supreme, I guess. Also, Oliver, in his previous fight, has survived somehow. Well, anyway, Doc was sent to Sodor. Although being kinda kind, Thomas knew that his inner demons would come out someday. And now Sodor is a highly protected island. And apart from military use, biofusion is banned from the mainland. And now people like Major track down biofused stuff to eliminate them, I suppose. Which brings us back to the beginning of the movie, where this engine's name was actually Harrison. Then we get introduced to these two characters, Pakari and Hali Salako, who were both married, actually. One was an engine and the other was a human. Then in 1990, Pakari was ill and then he had to stay in Sodor research, while Sally went on to make sidekick readings. Biofusion has always been about reading minds and stuff. Well, Major decided to go on and make an appointment with Hallie to hopefully get his questions answered. Although Hallie can't talk technically, she uses her little machine things for mute people or something so she can talk. I don't know how these works. And then so after Bakari just runs for his life, Major starts shooting him with a cameo of Paul Vids. Bakari runs into the outside world in hopes of getting away from Major Hartley. But it was no use, as Major had Bakari's biggest weakness, a fucking whistle. Whistles just turn him on, I guess. So after Bakari got killed, we learn that Bakari has a child. Then we go to Crew, where Major will find out about the supposed Bakari's child. So after we get broadcasted into a pretty intense birthing scene, and a pretty cool scene about the camera moving around and stuff. Did I mention that this movie takes place in like a future? We get reintroduced to Hans Goetze and Owen Roof. Anyway, we get introduced to this character called Terry Claus. He worships all the diesels, and he desperately wanted to become one. After he raised the money, well, he became one. However, since he had split a personality disorder, things went a little bit different.
While one individual side of Terry took the form of an engine, another side of him took shape in quite another way.
So after Terry Claus just kills everyone, I guess, and we learn about some of the conditions of these engines, Thomas emerges from the darkness, but this time he had a quite of a different form. Was a bit more steampunk designed, if anything, and all the soldiers were waiting for him. Then Thomas came out of his body, only just like in Shed 17. He starts saying shit like how he thinks no one can stop him and all that shit. He dies. Then a soldier feels sorry for him. Then a bunch of ancient soldiers came around to say something, but well, not say something, just say pretty much nothing. Just go, ooh, ooh, well, as his death while the soldier is approaching him. Then Thomas came back to life for a second and then haunts the shit out of the wooden guy. And then everyone started shooting, and holy shit, this scene is very long. Then they basically drop a bombshell into the island, and those bomb things are actually biofused themselves. Then we get introduced to Toby, or rather, his clone. So after lobotomizing Toby and then telling us about all the engines who were lobotomized to get into Sodorland because humans are not allowed, he made his way to Soldor. Though he had to be interrupted by Diesel 10 and Kevin the Crane. So we learned of the state of the island after the island was bombed. And then we go to the one and only Shed 17, where it had started it all. Although it doesn't really look like Shed 17. So after he got out of Toby and entered Shed 17, and he also met his father, who strangely wasn't around all those burnt down trucks, we get properly reintroduced to Owen Roof, the villain of the sequel and the prequel. He started talking about some stuff. We get some pretty cool dialogue between these two. Major basically attempts to shoot him, but little did he know that actually Owen has a gun himself. The truck tried to warn him, but it was too late. But luckily, for the convenience of Major, Owen, well,
the God said that he was to bring back.
he got melted alive by the liquid of the tank, pretty much. Then after we have some more dialogue, the thing that was inside the tank, well, got out of the tank and slowly started to walk towards Major. He fixes his gunshot wound and what? What? Wait a minute. What's going on? Is this thing reviving the engines? Oh, it seems like it is. Yeah, I'm just as shocked as Diesel 10. And over here. And Pinchy. After this thing starts to revive even more stuff, the movie ends and we learn that this thing is Thomas. Also, after credit scene with Major Hartley vomiting. Well, that was a movie. Let's talk about it. Okay, so as usual, let's go with the nitpicks and points out and other small mentions before we get to the big stuff. Let's go. Honestly, I kind of prefer the dialogue from the trailer. Though, probably for the first time, I do like the beginning. Like, it's pretty nice, pretty cool. Though boilers don't open off like that. Oh my god. Do I care? Why do I care? Never mind, just fuck that. Okay, so how are these engines doing that? Like, how can they write and show their, donks? Made me laugh, by the way. But like, how? They don't have any hands, right? Okay, so major plot hole. How is Oliver alive? I heard that it was because Paul Vids found it cringy. I saw it in a live stream, but like, how? I don't think it was. I think it was alright. Like, what happened? Like, dude, this, I just don't like it. At least make him blind. Like, make him blind at least. Is because he clearly got his eyes bursted out. That dog scene kinda looked AI generated. Let me repeat. Kinda. I've seen the behind the scenes photos of live streams. The reason why it kind of looks out is because, the cut is like nearly perfect. And, the character kind of moves on naturally. But still, I know this ain't. This is just some really smooth editing, I guess. And we kind of jumped to Picari and Hallie Salako. And speaking of Picari Bakari looks and sounds young. I can understand why he would sound young, as he is voiced by someone who's 17. But like, he looks young as well. Mm, that doesn't seem right. And also, Bakari being ill, as far as I know, doesn't really go anywhere. It's just mentioned. Side note, but I used to think that Major was the old narrator. You know, that one that was in the first two movies, the unknown one. You know, the one that says, "Those were the stories that had charmed an entire generation." Since with the book and the television series, people around the world has grown up with the railway stories and older cheerful characters. You know that narrator. Why didn't Major just started walking towards the wall? And why couldn't Pakari just reversed? Major could have killed the children. What's the point of all this? And how did he know that, like, Pakari is attracted to whistles? Wow. Pretty graphic birth scene, though. The camera moving thing was pretty cool. We kind of randomly jumped into Diesel 10 and got away from him quickly, though the scene that he was introduced with was pretty cool. I like the split personality or the idea. Though, does he have any control over Pinchy? And damn, bro, how sharp is your nails? The Cyberpunk Thomas design is cool, like really cool. Though, how did they biofuse him back into a tank engine? Like, how? Engines, how did the engines do that? Did they just came out of their bodies? Also, the hands. I like the black soldiers thing. I think it was kind of cool. And who is that soldier and why isn't he that important? Like, he doesn't really appear throughout the movie all that often, and he's treated as if he's some major character. Like, huh? Why did they biofuse the bombs? And why did they wanted that? Or did they didn't want that? Like, huh?
Captain Tor simply fires them up and waits for the water to dry out.
Pretty sure if a boiler runs dry, it will explode. Pinchy was just standing there, as well as Toby. Diesel 10 and Kevin's voice are way too similar. I genuinely, you cannot tell who's talking. Like, it's kind of confusing. So I like that the windmill is back and that we know why the windmill is destroyed. It's because of the bombs. And why is the dead bodies of anyone here? Didn't Hit Logistic just took them all away? So, now that that's done, it's time to do the review. The part where I bring out major points. Get it? Major? Now, let's go. So, to start off, remember in my review on Project G1, I was just complaining about just how as the coherent plot line is? Well, fortunately for me, unlike in Project G1, Sodorland, it isn't as shitty with if the plot line. However, it's not as good as Shed 17, and that is already not saying much. Boy, oh boy, the animation has definitely improved. Like, very good job with Paul. Well done. He really outdid himself there. A lot of information to us is given, but it never goes anywhere. Like, take the Spakari and the Hali Solako scene, for example. Like, a lot of information to us is given. Like, and Pakari being ill, Hali having like sidekick reading and therapy that doesn't really go anywhere. Like, hell, even Major going to Sodorland just to get his questions answered, and he didn't get his questions answered. Even in the beginning, we had dialogue saying, "My dad created this thing here." That I don't remember the dialogue properly, but it was about how Keith creating the special machine to make a steam engines cope with their transition, but is now used to find engines. Yeah, that's not really going anywhere. He never used this invention by his dad ever again. Honestly, I don't mind the realistic eyes, but I really don't like the hands. I don't think it looks good on them. They're alright, but I don't like them. Okay, half of this is unconnected with the other movies. Like, it doesn't have the same charm, shittiness, and all that. And I think I know why, and I'll get to that in a minute. Holy shit, the cyberpunk Thomas scene took way too long. Like, even just summarizing it, it kind of was a bit shitty. I didn't like it. It was a little bit too long. Also, why is the BR logo, the British Rail logo, just everywhere in this movie? What's up with that? Like, why is it everywhere? Why? Well, does Paul think that now this is now a protest sign? Uh, the ending dialogue was good. Slightly cringe, but good. I like it. Speaking of it, I really like the effort that this has. Like, the amounts of animation he did, the amount of editing, mm, texturing. Paul really outdone himself with this. Also, mm, the whole thing with Toby, his clone, and Kevin breaks major continuity. Because again, it has been established that biofuels clones can feel each other. And when one gets stabbed, for example, the other one will feel. So, like, how is Toby not feeling his clone? Now that I think about this, does bring the same question with Thomas back when he first met his own clones. How is he not feeling the same thing that his other clones are feeling? And why didn't Project G1 just grab Toby and Kevin anyway? What was preventing them from doing that? And finally, the big obvious thing that you'll notice in this movie is that it's a movie. It's no longer the documentary style, and although I will admit it's pretty good at being a movie, it has all the efforts for dialogue and animation. It is good at being a movie. I don't like that it's no longer a documentary. Like, for me, the fact that Shed 17 was a documentary was the whole thing that just was charming with me. It wasn't about the fact that it was just about Thomas the Tank Engine. Wasn't just about that. Nor did I find it scary. It's because it was this documentary. By the time that I'm recording this video, documentaries are not some overused horror genre. Like it isn't overused. It isn't just like analog horror or mask on horror. No. So it's unique. And the fact that Paul broke this uniqueness by trying to make a movie, uh, pretty unfortunate. I mean, I guess it wouldn't work as it's a documentary from the future, and how are we seeing a movie from the future? But still, that is what made the Shed 17 and Project G1 so iconic. It was a documentary. It wasn't a scary Thomas video. It wasn't some scary fanfic. It was a documentary creepypasta. We don't have much of them. I wish people would just dive in more into this documentary style. That's why this movie doesn't feel as connected to the other films than the others. Yeah. Here I am again, making another discussion about the end scene. Trust me, this isn't like a recurring thing that is gonna happen in like every single review. As that wasn't even in Project G1 review. So there was a deleted scene though. Well, anyway, let's talk about it. Why did Shed 17 was redesigned? Just why? I mean, I'm not calling Shed 17 the shed like the best location. I kind of like the redesign, but why was it? It's like iconic. Why would you do that? Okay, so when Owen shot Major, Saunders didn't come out like nothing. So like that's already breaking a bit of the continuity there. But then later on in the movie, Major says,
Plastic.
implying that for all this time, Owen was made out of plastic, which is why he melted. And like, okay, so are they a flesh and bones or not? Like, again, is there just specific types of people? Is there wood, plastic, flesh? Oh my god, the sawdust idea is kind of stupid. It's funny but stupid. Okay, so who brought 4 trucks in Shed 17? And how did one of them survive? In fact, why did they even remove anything that was inside Shed 17 anyway? Why? Okay, now to address the elephant in the room. This thing, you know, Thomas, moves in a goofy way. Like, he kind of moves in a goofy way. Look, I really don't want to sound like I'm a weirdo, but I'm pretty sure this thing just have a dong. You can't convince me otherwise. This thing have a dong. Oh boy, I'm gonna get a little bit serious. Trigger warning, but I'm pretty sure there's some AI in this, specifically in the face. So, oh dear, how triggering. Is it bad that I don't care? Look, let me get this straight. I am not into AI. I am not looking forward to a future where everything is AI. It's just that, I'm sorry, as far as I'm concerned, this isn't the worst thing that Paul Vids has ever done. If this is really what crossed the line I'm between you and Paul, then I don't know, man. I think there are things worth more getting angry about. And as far as we know, anyway, there are only faces who are being used, not the scripts, not the other art, just faces. So, really, I don't like to be that kind of guy, but it's screw not that big a deal. Again, let me get this straight. It's not like I don't care about AI, it's gonna replace us all. I don't even like robots. In fact, I hate robots like character AI, but still, I don't know, man. AI is not one of my triggers. Now back to our regularly scheduled program. Why couldn't this be Lady? Lady from Thomas and the Magic Railroad. Like, in the very end of the movie, Thomas put his hands in the ground and, like, it's all just glowing yellow. Come on, man. Why couldn't this be Lady? I mean, okay, fine. If you did show one naked woman walking around the streets with a funnel, yeah, that'd be rough. Like, come on. Yellow, low powers. This thing even have a funnel similar to Lady. Come on. Come on. Come on, just do it. Do it, dude. It's a bit of a miss of opportunity. I can't believe it. Speaking about missed opportunities, Paul missed a perfect opportunity to use the little claw there. The little claw that we saw as a joke in earlier in the movie. And those guys weren't there before. I'm sorry, I'm not crazy, am I? Those guys weren't there before. Where did they came from? And also, the wooden minifigurines change positions. To be fair, it wasn't implied that the wooden minifigurines couldn't move because of the uh, uh red thing going all over their body. But, like, again, those guys weren't there before. Where did they came from? And how did these engines turn around and re-rail themselves? How did they did all that? That's not possible. Okay, I have a confession for you to make. I have a confession, not for you, it's for me. When I first saw this scene, like when I was first viewing this movie, I was both confused and disappointed. Like, it's a very funny feeling, one that I don't think that most people have felt. But when I first seen that, I was just both confused and disappointed. I'll get to why I'm disappointed in a bit, but look, 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 look. I think it's very hard for you to get an emotion out of me. Now, I'm not trying to call myself soulless and, yeah, yeah. Well, maybe it's not that hard anyway. I don't know myself too well. But when it comes to watching media, I don't think you get to confuse and disappoint me like this. Because listen, most of the time when I'm just watching a Thomas video, I just sit down, watch it, have some internal thoughts, and then never think about it again. But with this was different. When I first watched this, I was confused and disappointed. And the reason why I was confused is because, you know, what the fuck was happening? Hmm. Like, oh, not to brag, but I have a very big brain. So like, I can always just guess where anything is going, you know. Oh, this character is probably gonna be the twist villain. Oh, this character is probably not gonna be great. But for the first time ever, a movie just flabbergasted me. I just couldn't really tell where this was going. Again, I thought this was Lady, but no, it's Thomas. And the reason why I was disappointed as well, here it is. This is probably a bad take, but I wanted a bad ending. Yep, I'm saying it. I wanted a bad ending. I mean, okay. I guess the ending that we got was slightly emotional. I do like the music and, you know, the engines reviving and all that. I'm kind of cool, but let me say it again. I wanted a bad ending. Now, this might sound a little bit horrific, might sound a little bit edgelordish. So, like, let me explain. The reason why I wanted a bad ending is because, well, Shed 17 was always just about showing the dark side of Thomas the Tank Engine, showing us the truth about it. And because the movie wouldn't be corny, like, again, I guess the end scene was emotional, but I wanted something less corny, something that would kind of grasp my heart, but wouldn't be making me wanting for more. As Paul does claim this is the final movie, but then again, he did claim that Project G1 was the final movie all those years ago, and now look at him. He changed his mind. But still, I really wish that Paul could have given this movie a bad ending, just so it would have been more satisfying and less confusing and definitely less corny. So yeah, in conclusion, this movie was quite a thing. Look, man, as I said, I don't like the fact that it's no longer a documentary, as again, that's what attracted me to it. I don't like to be the kind of guy that just neglects anything in that is, different, but, you know, it still kind of sucks. And not to mention, completely miserable ending really, really brings down the movie. I think that maybe if the movie had a bad ending as I wanted, the movie would have been better, and the removal of AI, depending on who you ask. But I don't know about that. I just wish it at least had a decency of being like YouTube style documentary, similar to how YouTubers like Nick Crowley would do. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Not really the best movie, but at least it's better than in the second movies in a few ways. A lot of ways, actually. But yeah, nothing more to say. So thanks for watching and goodbye.